On Fifth Avenue, there's this 58-story tower of bronze glass that just slices right into the Manhattan skyline. And that's Trump Tower. Since it opened back in '83, it's been way more than just a building. It's become a symbol of ambition, a landmark of pure luxury, and, yeah, a total lightning rod for controversy. Today, we're going to go behind those gilded doors and really uncover the hidden story of how this Tower of Power actually got built.
So, with those simple words, a young, super ambitious developer named Donald Trump basically announced his arrival on the world stage. See, this wasn't just another skyscraper he was putting up, it was a statement. In a city that was literally clawing its way back from the edge of total collapse, this was a promise of a brand new, unapologetic era of wealth and luxury. And you know what? For a while, it absolutely delivered on that promise. The tower became an instant icon of the booming '80s. It was a magnet for celebrities, a symbol of a New York that was coming back to life. It was more than just an address. It was a full-blown pop culture phenomenon. It was proof of that whole '80s idea that, greed was good and bigger was always better.
But what did it really take to build this monument to success? As we're about to see, behind all that glamour, there were backroom deals, a lot of broken promises, and a story of power that's literally cemented into the tower's foundations.
Okay, so first, let's just talk about the image. Because Trump Tower wasn't just built to be lived in, it was designed to be experienced. It was a spectacle of wealth, engineered from the ground up to make a huge statement from the very second you walked in the door. Yeah, in an interview from 1983, Ivana Trump, who was actually in charge of the incredibly lavish interior design, made the tower's mission crystal clear. This wasn't just some building, it was basically a private club for the global elite. And every single detail was designed to make them feel right at home.
And the stage was set with this symphony of extravagance. We're talking about a 5-story atrium made of shimmering Italian marble, a 60-foot indoor waterfall, apartments just dripping with 24-karat gold fixtures. This was not subtle, okay? It was an all-out assault of opulence.
So, did the gamble pay off? Oh yeah, big time. On an investment of around $200 million, which was a colossal sum for the time, the tower brought in $300 million in condo sales right out of the gate. It was a massive, massive financial success. But to really get how Trump pulled it off, we had to go back in time, back to the New York of the 1970s, a city that was basically on its knees.
You see, Trump Tower didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was born from this perfect storm of crisis and opportunity that really could have only happened in 1970s New York.
You have to picture it. The New York of the 1970s was a city on the verge of complete collapse. It was bankrupt, it was crime-ridden, and developers were fleeing for the hills. But right in the middle of all that chaos, a young Donald Trump saw the opportunity of a lifetime.
So, after cutting his teeth in his father's real estate empire out in Queens and Brooklyn, Trump was ready for the big leagues. His first huge Manhattan project, the Commodore Hotel, was a massive success. But he wanted more. He wanted Fifth Avenue. And he found the absolute perfect spot, the iconic Bonwit Teller building.
And this is where the story takes a darker turn. Because before the first brick of Trump Tower could ever be laid, an old New York landmark had to be destroyed. And that demolition would become the project's first major scandal. The Bonwit Teller building wasn't just any old department store. No, this was a 1929 Art Deco masterpiece, famous for its intricate limestone facade and these two massive 15-foot sculptures of dancing women that graced its entrance. It was a piece of the city's soul.
So, under pressure, Trump made a very public promise. He said he would carefully remove the sculptures and donate them to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. The city kind of breathed a sigh of relief. But then, one morning in 1980, New Yorkers woke up to the news that the sculptures had been jackhammered into dust. The reason they gave? It would have cost too much and taken way too long to save them.
The official story came from this mysterious company spokesman named John Barron, a name, by the way, that Trump was known to use when he was talking to the press. Barron claimed the sculptures had no artistic merit, but the excuse was so flimsy it just made everything worse, and that charge of cultural vandalism has stuck to the tower ever since.
But that story of the demolished art, believe it or not, was just the beginning. To really understand the secret history of Trump Tower, we need to look at who actually built it and where the materials came from. And that's where things get really murky.
So the backbreaking work of tearing down the Bonwit-Teller building fell to a group of about 200 undocumented Polish immigrants. They became known as the Polish Brigade, and they were essentially the invisible army that cleared the way for Trump's monument to wealth. They worked grueling 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week, for as little as $4 an hour, often without basic safety gear like hard hats. The conditions were so terrible that it eventually led to a major lawsuit over unpaid wages. It's just a crazy contrast, right? A tower built to celebrate extreme wealth, constructed on the backs of an exploited and underpaid workforce.
And then there was the concrete. The very bones of Trump Tower were supplied by a company with deep, deep ties to the mob. S&A Concrete, it was called, and it was controlled by Anthony Fat Tony Salerno, the boss of the powerful Genovese crime family. Now here's where it gets really interesting. In 1982, a massive strike brought construction in New York City to a grinding halt. Concrete deliveries stopped for pretty much every major project in the city. But not for Trump Tower. Nope. The concrete just kept flowing, which was a pretty clear sign that Trump had let's call it a special relationship with some very powerful people.
So when Trump Tower finally opened its doors in 1983, it really was a symbol of two very different New Yorks. You had the glamorous world of wealth and celebrity right there on the surface, and then this dark, hidden world of exploitation and crime that was literally lying right beneath it. On one side of the ledger, you've got the undeniable success. A project that helped bring a struggling part of the city back to life, a financial home run that made Trump a household name, and a building that became a global icon. But on the other side, you've got this legacy of cultural vandalism, of labor exploitation, and these really troubling ties to organized crime. And that's all before it became the political lightning rod that it is today.
You know, perhaps the best summary comes from Barbara Ress, the woman who was actually in charge of the tower's construction. She knew Trump and the project better than just about anyone, and her take on him perfectly captures the tower's dual legacy. A man who was both more and less than he appeared to be.
In the end, Trump Tower is so much more than just a building. It's a monument to a certain kind of ambition, a testament to the idea that in America, you can build your own reality no matter what it costs. And it really forces us to ask, when we look at the great buildings that shape our world, are we celebrating the triumph of the human spirit, or are we just admiring a beautiful facade that's hiding a much, much darker story?